The small garage off Route 19 smelled of grease, rust, and old ambition. Tori slipped on her gloves and knelt beside the busted lawnmower, humming to herself. The world outside ignored women like her, especially under a hood. But inside these four walls, tools obeyed her. Machines respected her, and engines spoke truths others couldn't hear. She didn't fix things for recognition. She fixed them because she could. And today, she had no idea that the sound of an exotic engine pulling up would change everything she believed about herself and what the world thought she could never do. The black McLaren rolled in like a spaceship crash landing in a forgotten town. Its sleek body shimmered, but its engine coughed and stuttered like an old tractor. The man who stepped out wore frustration on his face and a tailored suit that didn't belong. In a dusty garage, he looked around as if hoping someone else, someone male, would walk out. Instead, Tori wiped her hands and approached. "Need help?" The man hesitated. "You the assistant?" She smiled dryly. "Owner, mechanic, and miracle worker. What seems to be the problem?" He laughed, then said, "It's dead. Even McLaren's top engineers gave up on it." Tori raised an eyebrow. "They gave up, huh?" The man crossed his arms. "They said the diagnostics don't make sense. Hybrid systems toast. No one can trace. The electrical fault." She glanced over the sleek curves, already guessing where the issue might be hiding. "Give me 24 hours, she said calmly. He scoffed. "You serious?" Tori grabbed a clipboard. "Dead serious." He shook his head, chuckled under his breath, and handed her the keys like he was offering a dare. "Good luck, Miss Mechanic." Tori pocketed the keys, eyes sharp. "You're going to need it more than I do." The moment he left, Tori got to work. She popped the rear hatch and dove into a maze of carbon fiber, lithium cells, and European engineering arrogance. Beneath the brilliance, she noticed something. Overlooked an improperly insulated junction where temperature spikes could confuse the onboard diagnostics. She took a photo, then went deeper, tracing signals with steady fingers and sharper instincts. By nightfall, she had a dozen clues and one certainty. The car wasn't broken, it was misunderstood. She smiled. That was something she related to, and she wasn't going to let another beautiful machine be discarded because it confused the experts. She didn't go home that night. The shop lights buzzed above her as solder smoked and wires trembled under her touch. She bypassed systems, mocked up new ones, rerouted delicate connections through handmade circuits and whispered encouragement like the machine was alive. The silence outside was broken only by the soft rumble of her dog, curled up nearby, and the occasional snap of a spark. At dawn, when the sun broke over the garage roof, Tori stood up, wiped sweat from her forehead, and hit the ignition. The McLaren roar-boo not coughed, not wheezed, roared like it had been waiting to be heard. The door creaked open an hour later. The suited man stood stunned as the McLaren idled with a deep, hungry purr. He walked over like he was afraid the sight would vanish. "What did you do?" he asked. Tori tossed him the key fob. "List is on the clipboard. Also, tell your engineers to check for thermal loop misreads in their next model." He blinked. "They'll never believe this." She leaned against the car. "They don't have to, but you do." He stared at her like seeing her for the first time. "Who are you?" Tori smirked. "Just a girl in a garage." He returned the next day, not alone this time. Two other men, both engineers in matching branded shirts, followed him in, half mocking, half curious. They asked questions, poked around the car, dismissed her fixes as lucky guesses or accidents. Tori stayed calm. "You're free to re-break it and try your method." They didn't. The engine still purred like a jungle cat, smooth and terrifying. The men left with furrowed brows and embarrassed nods. The suited man, however, stayed. "Would you consider consulting for us?" Tori laughed. "Consulting, or saving your reputation every time your fancy toys go silent?" He didn't answer, but he smiled. That evening, a black SUV pulled up to the garage. A tall woman stepped out, CEO of the performance division. Her heels clicked across the floor as she scanned the shop, with the expression of someone allergic to dirt. "We've heard of you," she said plainly, "but we didn't believe it." Tori crossed her arms. "Believe what?" "That a woman, without formal training, could outperform our team." Tori met her gaze without blinking. "I didn't outperform anyone. I just listened to what your engineers ignored." The woman nodded slowly. "Would you fly to LA next week?" Tori raised an eyebrow. "Depends. Economy or first class?" The visit to LA was surreal. She walked into a spotless lab filled with engineers who stared like she was a legend or an intruder. They gave her a busted prototype that hadn't worked for 2 years. She fixed it in 2 hours. They asked how. She explained using metaphors from dirt bikes and carburetors. Half of them scoffed. The other half wrote everything down. By the end of the day, the CEO pulled her aside. "You're not like anyone we've worked with." Tori nodded. "I'm not trying to be." "Then what do you want?" the CEO asked. Tori smiled. "Respect." When she returned to her garage, it wasn't quiet anymore. Word had spread. Young girls from town came by to watch her work. Local reporters knocked on her door. And former teachers who once rolled their eyes now praised her on Facebook. But Tori didn't care for any of that. She still showed up early, still got grease on her jeans, still lost herself in machines that needed someone to see them fully. Her old customers stayed loyal. New ones drove from hours away. That McLaren parked beside her desk with a custom nameplate, the one they gave up on, meant the most. She didn't change, but everything around her did. Her tiny garage got upgraded. McLaren paid for new diagnostic tools. Kids from trade schools emailed her questions. Some engineers sent apologies, others sent offers. But Tori never forgot the first time they laughed, the doubt in their faces, the condescension in their tone. She used that memory like fuel, not to prove them wrong, but to prove what was possible. The girl they dismissed had walked out of a dusty garage and fixed what their best minds couldn't. She didn't just restore a car. She restored belief in herself and in every girl like her. Months passed. The garage still smelled like home oil, metal, heat, but now had the quiet hum of precision machines McLaren had. Shipped directly. They wanted her in Europe. She declined. They offered again. She told them, "I build better here." Engineers visited every few weeks, hoping to catch a glimpse of her working. Some treated her like a genius. Others still doubted, but no one laughed anymore. Her name had found its way into magazines, podcasts, racing blogs. Still, Tori kept things simple. She had a gift, and she wasn't about to trade it for boardrooms or corporate handshakes. Then came the knock that changed everything again. It was late, nearly 9 p.m. A young man stood outside, barely 20, shaking. His hoodie was soaked from rain, and behind him sat a busted-up red Nissan 240SX on a trailer. "Are you Tori?" he asked. She nodded. "That's me. They said you could fix anything." She smiled softly. "That depends." "What happened?" He looked down. "It's for my sister. She was supposed to race it next month, but the whole engine block's cracked. Nobody'll touch it. They laughed when I said I'd bring it here." Tori's eyes narrowed. "Then they're about to be wrong again." She towed the Nissan into Bay 2 and peeled back the hood. Cracks ran along the aluminum like veins. Hoses melted. Gaskets swollen. It looked hopeless, but so had the McLaren. "This your sister's?" "A car?" she asked. The young man nodded. "She's sick, but she loves driving. Built most of this herself before the chemo." Tori's heart tightened. "What's her name?" "Melanie." Tori nodded. "We're going to get Melanie back on that track." That night, she cleared her schedule, rolled up her sleeves, and got to work. Not for money, not for press, but because this one mattered more than anything. She stayed up 3 nights straight, forged parts, called favors, hand-welded replacements the dealers said didn't exist. When the new engine roared to life, it wasn't just mechanical, It was spiritual. Melanie arrived days later in a wheelchair, thin but smiling. When she saw her car, tears filled her eyes. "You brought her back," Tori smiled. "She never left you. She just needed a little help." Melanie ran her hand along the hood, then looked. "They told me I'd never race again." Tori knelt beside her. "Let them talk, then show them what speed looks like." The race was in 6 days. The track was packed. Cameras clicked, big sponsors watched. No one paid attention to the red Nissan, not until it overtook 3 cars in 1 lap. Melanie drove like thunder, each turn defying gravity. The announcers scrambled to find her name. Tori stood in the pit, heart pounding, eyes locked on the girl everyone had forgotten. She didn't just finish the race, she won it. The crowd roared. Melanie lifted her helmet, crying, laughing, shaking. Reporters swarmed her. "Who built that engine?" one asked. Melanie pointed through the crowd. "She did, the girl they laughed at, the one they never saw coming." After the race, sponsors came in waves. Melanie's medical bills paid, her future bright. She hugged Tori like a sister. "I'll tell the world about you." But Tori smiled. "Let your driving speak. That's all I need." A week later, ESPN ran a segment. The garage angel behind the wheel. Tori's name trended online again. Offers doubled, then tripled. Still, she stayed in her town, in her garage. Her mission wasn't fame, it was fire. For every kid who'd been doubted, every woman turned away, every dream dismissed. Her tools weren't just metal, they were justice, and she wielded them like armor. Then came the invitation no one expected. Formula E, not just a seat lead engineer. The catch? It meant leaving her garage, her home. She stood under the shop lights. That night, staring at the offer. The salary was outrageous, the prestige unmatched. But her gaze fell to a board behind her. Desk photos of kids she'd helped, girls with calloused hands, old men who now trusted machines again. Melanie's victory. Voto sat at the center. She folded the offer, then called them back. "I'll help," she said, "but only if I stay here. My garage isn't a stepping stone, it's the mission." Formula E agreed. Remotely, she'd lead diagnostics, troubleshoot in real time, and guide the next-gen cars like an unseen force. From a dusty garage, she became the backbone of a billion-dollar team. Reporters flooded her inbox. "Do you realize what you've done?" one asked. "Yeah," Tori said. "I showed you that genius doesn't always wear a lab coat." The same engineers who once mocked her now logged in to take notes. The same men who once looked past her now paused when she spoke. Tori didn't shout. She just did what she'd always done, fix what others broke and believe in what they couldn't see. One morning, an envelope arrived, thick, embossed, formal, an award ceremony in D.C. for mechanical innovation and gender equity. She almost tossed it, but Melanie called that afternoon. "You going? Doubt it? Why not?" "Because I don't need their medals." "Maybe not," Melanie said. "But some girl watching might," Tori sighed. "All right, I'll go, but I'm wearing grease-stained jeans." She walked across a velvet carpet like she owned it. When she received the award, she said 5 words. "Girls belong under the hood." The crowd stood, not just for her, but for what she represented. After the speech, a little girl approached, maybe 10 years old, missing a front tooth, holding a wrench instead of a phone. "I want to be like you," she said. Tori knelt, into tears threatening. "You'll be better than me." She gave the girl her name patch. "This got me through a lot. Now it's yours." That girl, years later, would win an international robotics competition. And she'd say in an interview, "A mechanic once made me believe I could change the world. So I did." That's how legacies work, not with noise, but with impact. Quiet, steady, permanent. Tori's garage stayed open every day, rain or shine, rich or broke. She fixed cars, built dreams, and never turned away challenge. McLaren sent her their toughest problems. NASCAR teams consulted her. She even helped NASA troubleshoot a rover prototype. But she still changed oil for old Mr. Hartley every Tuesday, because greatness, to her, was never about escaping where she started. It was about lifting others from it. She walked out of a garage once and fixed what a team of engineers couldn't. Now she kept that door open so others could walk through too, tools in hand, ready to change the world.